Yeah, let's begin.
Yeah.
Okay, does it work? I'm not sure whether we need these microphones for us to hear each other, but okay. I'm not used to speaking in this room, speaking over the microphone, so the beginning is going to, for him as well, yeah. So thanks everybody for coming. Welcome to Ljubljana for all of you who have come here to attend the conference, and to every Slovenian students, theorists who have come here to this conference that we decided to call "To Be Continued." It's a conference on philosophy and psychoanalysis as it is today, right? So the general idea came from our discussions and also with Boštjan that actually from inside the institute that we actually have to prepare some conference that would have to organize a conference that would be specifically revolved that will with a topic centered around psychoanalysis. So instead of choosing like one topic, one problem that psychoanalysis has dealt with, we went for this general question of where do we stand with the relation of between psychoanalysis and philosophy today. So because my impression has been that there are some problems with the way psychoanalysis relates to philosophy today. In some sense, maybe on the one hand, we could say that it's kind of overtook philosophy in certain aspects and in certain fields, or that this kind of drive to go on with psychoanalysis, well, especially with psychoanalytic theory, has slowly begun to kind of weaken in some sense. So there is some impression that we have to do something, that we actually have to decide or to rethink the position of psychoanalysis, and kind of decide whether is it possible, is it worth it, does it make sense to go on with psychoanalysis, and especially with the relationship between psychoanalysis and philosophy. So this was the initial idea, of which Lorenzo will say, I believe, much more and more in a more organized way, right? But what I wanted to say still is that I'm very happy again to, especially to have Lorenzo here and to have Newcastle University here in a concrete way as well, because we decided to establish like an official cooperation between first the Institute of Philosophy and your department or school. Mm-hmm. And now this cooperation between SAZU and Newcastle University is starting to kind of build up. So we hope that this is just the beginning of, if not of the new birth of psychoanalysis, at least the new birth of very fruitful cooperation between two institutions. So Lorenzo, and the floor or the word is yours.
Thank you, Tadej. Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome also on my part. And yes, I would like to spend a couple of words on two things. Well, Tadej already said something about the collaboration between the institutions. I would like to add something about how the conference, the workshop originated. And B, in terms of content, I would like to say something more about what we maybe ideally aim to achieve, or at least open up. So as Tadej was saying on the first point, the conference is, this conference and the following one in April, in mid-April, is part of the ongoing and by now quite official research and exchange activities planned within a memorandum of understanding, which is a kind of like bureaucratic way of, calling an official collaboration between SAZU, the Institute of Philosophy here, and the Department of Philosophy, or so-called School X at Newcastle University, something we started in 2022. And there's a number of activities we are planning together, some ongoing, some forthcoming, such as postgraduate exchange. Holden is here from Newcastle, and hopefully we will soon have also SAZU postgraduate students staying with us in Newcastle. We are jointly organizing research events, and there's also like in the making a soon to be implemented a staff mobility scheme. So maybe you'll be speaking in Newcastle, I will be speaking here, and other colleagues as well.
You already are speaking.
Yeah, so I don't know why I need like a bureaucratic confirmation of that. So, right. And well, let me just thank both institutions for their support in putting this in place. Coming to the second point, let me just say something about what we aim to achieve, ideally at least, with these two conferences, workshops. And I'll read out a brief manifesto we put together to account for, I would say, and substantiate, at least tentatively, the title we have chosen for at least this first conference workshop, to be continued, philosophy and psychoanalysis today. So, what can we say about philosophy and psychoanalysis today? I think we can certainly say, that's me at least, that there has been a very prolix, long dialogue between philosophy and psychoanalysis, but this dialogue has so far proved very difficult, and few people say it. Ever since the inception of psychoanalysis, there has been a prolix dialogue between psychoanalysis and philosophy, but it has been difficult. So let's ask, is there such thing as a philosophy-psychoanalysis relationship? Or has it always been empty speech? If it has always been empty speech, should the relationship or the non-relationship be continued? Let me just chart the two territories. I mean, this is clearly a simplification, but what does psychoanalysis say about philosophy, and what does philosophy say about psychoanalysis so far? So on the side of psychoanalysis, Freud was notoriously critical of philosophy. Most conclusively, when Freud reads together the discourses of religion, philosophy, psychoanalysis, and science in this kind of hierarchical order, the bad discourse is religion, the best discourse is science for Freud. Freud does not hesitate to associate philosophy with religion and psychoanalysis with science. We have a problem. Philosophy for Freud, even in his contemporary variations, we are in the 30s, and despite declaring the death of God, philosophy for Freud remains a Weltanschauung, a totalizing vision of the world. I give you a quote from Freud. He says, "Philosophy always clings to the illusion of being able to present a picture of the universe which is without gaps and is coherent," end of quote. If we turn to Lacanian psychoanalysis, there is a lot of ambivalence with respect to philosophy. First, Lacan seems to pick up a very personal fight against philosophy. He says, "I rebel against philosophy," since, like for Freud, he seems to be very Freudian here. He says, there is only one kind of philosophy, Lacan speaking. It is always theological. But second, for Lacan, more constructively, although philosophy has been, he says, effaced by the emergence of psychoanalysis and set theoretical mathematics, psychoanalysis, he says, Lacan, nonetheless extends philosophy. So there's a contradiction. You know, like psychoanalysis effaces is verb philosophy, but also extends. So it's a kind of like prolongation of life after death of philosophy, thanks to psychoanalysis. But then there's a final twist in Lacan's argument. It goes beyond this compromising position. In an apparently inconsistent change of mind that also reverses the value of philosophy for the entire Freudian legacy, Lacan says, this is the very late Lacan, late 70s, quote, quite surprising quote, "What I'm doing myself here is philosophy. It's a philosophy that I, Lacan, have handled the best way I could following the current that results from Freud's philosophy." So a complete change of mind, apparently. On the side of philosophy, we could say forgetting about detractors, vociferous detractors who deem psychoanalysis to be unfalsifiable, Popper, false, Grunbaum, patriarchal, most feminist thought, or also in a telling short circuit with Freud's own contentions, a lay religion suited to the age of the death of God. That's Gellner's thesis. What is psychoanalysis? It is a lay religion after the death of God. So kind of like short circuit with what Freud says against philosophy. So Freud says philosophy is religion. Some theoreticians have said psychoanalysis is religion, right? We can say that at the end of the day, on the side of philosophy, we also have ambivalence towards psychoanalysis. Ambivalence takes center stage. Even a great, in my view, philosopher, and at face value, a great supporter of psychoanalysis like Alain Badiou, labels Lacan an anti-philosopher. However, even in Badiou, a precondition for contemporary philosophy, I'm closely paraphrasing, a precondition for the contemporary philosopher is to work through Lacan's anti-philosophy. So here again, you have an ambivalence. And this leads us to, opening up a question here. So what should we make of the philosophy of psychoanalysis and psychoanalysis philosophy non-relationship today? If we, agree, decide to wager on the future of this relationship, non-relationship, if we wager on the fact that both philosophy and psychoanalysis are here to stay. Now, to conclude, it's nowadays widely assumed, general discourse, if you can put it like that, in part for good reasons, that philosophy, unlike in its past, terribly lacks science. So philosophy is old-fashioned, science is the new thing. A number of philosophers making that claim on both the continental and analytic divide, by the way. It is also more and more uncontroversial that psychoanalysis is increasingly unable to read new symptoms and identify contemporary instantiations of classical symptoms, those giving way to psychotherapies and neurosciences. So this is the general consensus in a way. Philosophy would at best badly recapitulate today what Plato already set out more than 2,000 years ago. Psychoanalysis would at best stand as I'm paraphrasing metaphor, psychoanalysis would stand as a sad end product like a dinosaur or a zeppelin of what went wrong in the 20th century. So I guess where we're starting from, and this is really the last point, I guess both Tadej and I, in a way, in a circumscribed way, can partly agree with this bleak assessment. So philosophy lacks science, and psychoanalysis is being superseded by neurosciences, psychotherapies, etc. But then the question is, how can we think a superseding of this impasse? How can we think a superseding of such a historical trend by reinforcing or reopening or re-establishing the philosophy of psychoanalysis and psychoanalysis philosophy dialogue? It's a question mark. One quick final thing. This is a symptom, obviously. I was rereading this text this morning, and I've noticed that actually there are already two existing versions of the conference title, right? And the whole question is, well, clearly we synchronize as best as possible, but still, there is this symptom. What is the symptom in the two versions? Well, where to put the ellipsis? Where should you put the ellipsis? The far from innocent ... So should the ... in the title go after the continued into be continued, one version, or should we go after the question mark, right? It really changes things on the table. So obviously the positioning of the three dots suggests different meanings about what we're trying to achieve. In short, should we propose another installment in the philosophy of psychoanalysis saga, and then question whether it's empty speech, or is the question mark really to be advanced first? Maybe, why not? And then, if we answer positively to the question mark, we can proceed. And here I stop, I leave it to another ellipsis and give back the floor to Tadej. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorenzo.